Hello everyone. In this video, let's discuss a new update in LuBan mesh cutting method. Before we dig into that method, let me show you something that I have changed that will boost the behavior, the performance of LuBan software, especially those functions under the mesh menu. So if we go down to on LuBan homepage, go down to download LuBan, you can click either OneDrive or Google Drive to go to the download folders. And usually you go to specific folder that corresponds to your computer's operating system, such as Macintosh, go back, Linux, Ubuntu Linux, or Windows 32 or Windows 36. All these versions are now supporting multi-threaded processing, mesh processing. So you should find LuBan software running very fast when you do a large-scale cutting. The speed improvement is noticeable. We have multi-thread support for Windows for quite some time. So you will see a speed boost on Mac and Linux. But there is an exception. In Mac, if you use Mac OS 10, then multi-thread is not enabled. This is the only one exception because the OS is a bit outdated and it is very difficult to enable multi-thread processing. Mac OS 11 or later, you should all use LuBan macOS 11.dmg to install LuBan. And then in this case, multi-thread is already enabled. For Windows, some users have encountered the problem that when they run LuBan exe and when they go to mesh menu, for any of the functions under mesh, once they click, LuBan crash. This is a known issue and we have recently found the root cause. The root cause is there is a mismatch between the Visual Studio redistribution package installed on your computer and Visual Studio redistribution that is used to compile LuBan. What you have to do to fix that crash is to install the latest Visual Studio redistribution, x64 for 64-bit Windows or x86 for 32-bit Windows. Once you install these two redistribution package released by Microsoft, the crash should be fixed. Okay, that's all for the background. What we have done in improving the performance of LuBan multi-thread. Now let's go to the feature update in mesh cutting. Open a typical STL. Let's open the cow STL that I usually use to discuss the assembly sequence. Mesh cut. Under mesh cut, there are several functions. So the feature update is in the modular cut method. If I set it to 200, then the cut will be cut into several pieces. The feature update is in the presentation of assembly sequence. Previously, assembly sequence presented in the text file was quite unintuitive. Many users had the problem about how to use that file. This has been changed. It is now presented in a very intuitive way, but I still like to, it's almost self-explanatory, but I still like to briefly discuss about the new presentation. So when you click cut, go to my desktop and save it as the folder. There are actually several ways you can figure out the assembly sequence. The graphical way is to click Object Select If you click Object Select, the slider on the toolbar will be enabled, and you can highlight each part. So when you highlight each part, you will see the part number that enable you to figure out the spatial relationship of the highlighted part with the rest of the parts. So that's feasible when the model is cut into a few parts. If the model is cut into a lot of parts, more than 20 or 30, then this method is not that feasible because you can lose track. Another graphical way, let me disable it. Another graphical way is to use the keyboard shortcut E and R, explode and restore, in conjunction with the select tool. So if I press E, the parts will be separated, and then I press J to highlight the part. So when you combine these two graphical tools, it might be easier for you to figure out the spatial relationship. However, even these two methods is not enough when the number of cuts are a lot more. So let's take a look at the assembly sequence newly generated in the feature update. In the export folder, you will find a text file, assembly sequence. Double-click to open that file. Previously, in the old version, you will see part 1 with a lot of numbers, part 2 a lot of numbers, 0, 1 type of numbers. And that was unintuitive to read, my apologies. Now it's more intuitive. A number represents a part file number, so any number in under the table, under the list represents a part file number. So 1 is part 1. 3 is part 3, so on and so forth. This list is basically telling us the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So the first step, you put 1 and 2 together. Let's go back to the cow and use the select tool to see what is 1 and 2. Part 1 is this one. Part 2, apologies. Part 1, part 2, this is part 2. So first step, put part 1 and 2 together. That's reasonable. Second step, put 3, 4, and 5 together. 3, 4, 5 are this. 3, 4, 5. So you put these 3 together. You see, part 5 is connected to 3 and 4. So you can put these 3 together in one step. And lastly, you put the combo of 1 and 2. Remember, we have already put 1 and 2 together. We put the combo of 1 and 2 to join the combo of 3 to 5. So basically, the left part and the right part. This is the new assembly sequence, which is a lot easier to follow. Let's make the cow a lot bigger. 400, maybe 300, not too. Let's increase the size bit by bit. 300. The cow will be cut into more parts, and let's see what the assembly sequence look like. It is cut into 13 parts, and let's go to the new export folder, assembly sequence. Obviously, the list is longer. So first you put 3 and 4, then you put 7 and 8. Use the select tool to check 3 and 4. These two, reasonable. Then the next step is 7 and 8. 7 and 8. So these two at the bottom, 7 and 8. 9 and 10. 9 is this one with a big plug. 9 and 10. 11 and 12. 11 and 12. 11 and 12. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are these two. Okay, so all these assemblies are reasonable. They will not interfere with each other. Then after 1 and 2, we are going to put the combo of 3 and 4 with 5. Recall that 3 and 4 are already put together in the first step. So the combo of 3 and 4 with 5, this is 3 and 4. 3 and 4 are basically the head. Then 5 is this guy. So 3 and 4 put with 5. Next, 7 and 8 join with 9 and 10. 7 and 8 are the bottom two parts. 7 and 8. 9 and 10 are above them, right above them. So you will join the bottom four parts together. 11 to 12, 11 combo of 11 and 12 join with 13. 11 and 12. 13 is basically the last one. The bottom, the back, at the back of the cow. So 11, 12, and 13. You join these three together. Then 1 and 2 join with 3 to 5. 1 and 2. 1 and 2 are these two. 3, 4, 5 are 3, 4, 5 are the first, almost everything on the left. 3, 4, 5. So 1 and 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the left half of the cow. Then 6 join with 7 to 10. Then join with 11 to 13. 6 is this little guy, the tail. Join with 7 to 10. 7 to 10 are the bottom. 11 to 13 are the top. 11 to 13. Okay? The last step is join the left half of the cow with the right half of the cow. 1 to 5, 6 to 13. So that is it. That's the new sequence. And maybe we can test a much bigger model. I set it to 1000 and let's generate. This will take a while to cut, even though it is multi-threaded cutting. Let me see if I can bring my CPU measure performance. Okay, you see my CPU is very high usage. LuBan is using, let's see, LuBan is using 25% CPU. Okay, now it's already down to cutting one part and one part only. So it is not all the time parallel. But at the beginning, when you split the parts, it will be parallel cutting. It is cutting to 344 different parts. Let's take a look at the assembly sequence file. In this case, the assembly sequence is fairly long. Open it up. Okay, so these are the sequence that you gotta follow. Wow, many steps. There are more than 300 parts. Okay, so that is the new assembly sequence. Hopefully it is very intuitive to follow. You don't even need to look at the 3D figure, and you can assemble your models effectively. Thank you for your attention. See you next time.